Have you ever found yourself sitting in your favorite chair, hesitating before standing up, just for a moment, because you weren't sure if your legs would cooperate? Maybe you've started using your hands to push yourself up, or you've noticed getting off the couch feels a little shakier than it used to. It's subtle at first. No sharp pain. No dramatic moment. Just a quiet realization, this is getting harder than it used to be. Most people think, well, I'm just getting older. But what if that's not the whole story? What if that little struggle isn't about aging, but about something you can change? You see, what many don't realize is that how easily you stand up today can say a lot about your health tomorrow. It's not just about muscles, it's about independence, balance, and even your risk of serious health issues down the line. And yet, most people brush it off. They think it's normal. But sometimes, what we call normal is a quiet warning. In this video, I'll share with you the simple routine that helped me, at 80 years old, stand up strong without using my hands. No gym, no special equipment, just a few easy habits anyone can do at home. And by the end of this video, I'll reveal the most important daily habit that changed everything for me. So if you've ever worried about getting weaker, or just want to feel more in control of your body again, stay with me. Let's talk about the little things that can make a big difference. If you are not subscribed, subscribe and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. If you like the topic of this video, please comment 1. If you don't, please comment 0 to let me know how I can improve and make better videos for you. Now, let's begin. 1. Journey from weakness to independence. It started with something as small as reaching for the TV remote. One evening, I was sitting in my recliner, watching the local news, and I realized I couldn't get up as easily as I used to. I leaned forward, placed my hands on the armrests, gave a little grunt, and pushed myself up slowly. My knees wobbled, and I felt that slight dizziness that's become all too familiar. I didn't think much of it. After all, I'm in my late 70s, and I figured, this must just be part of getting older. Don't we all get a little slower, a little weaker? Isn't that normal? But over the next few months, it got worse. Carrying groceries from the car became a chore. Getting out of bed in the morning took longer. I had to lean on walls when going up just a few stairs. One day, while gardening, I tried to kneel down and simply couldn't stand back up without grabbing onto a fence post. That's when something clicked. This wasn't just aging, this was decline. There's a difference. Is weakness inevitable? Or can we change the script? We've all heard it, you get old, you get weak. It's just the way it is. That idea is so deeply planted in our minds that we stop questioning it. But what if that's not entirely true? What if weakness isn't the result of age itself, but of not using what we still have? Turns out, that science agrees. Research shows that after the age of 60, we naturally lose 1 to 2% of our muscle mass each year if we're inactive. That may not sound like much, but over a decade, it adds up. The thighs shrink. The back slumps. The core weakens. And suddenly, what used to be easy, standing up from a chair, walking a block, lifting a gallon of milk, feels like a struggle. The real danger? Most of us don't notice this until it's already impacting our lives. We chalk it up to aging. But the medical term is sarcopenia, the gradual loss of muscle and strength with age. And unlike wrinkles or gray hair, sarcopenia quietly robs us of our independence, one muscle fiber at a time. But here's the good news. Muscle loss is not permanent. And strength can be rebuilt, even in your 70s, 80s, or beyond. My turning point, a simple challenge I gave myself. I remember the exact moment I decided I needed to change. I had just turned 80. My daughter had brought over my birthday cake. Chocolate, my favorite. I leaned over the table to blow out the candles, and when I sat back in the chair, I realized I couldn't get up without pushing off the table. That night, I made a decision. Nothing radical. No gym memberships. No complicated routines. I would start with one small goal. Stand up from a chair without using my hands. The first time I tried it, I couldn't do it. I wobbled, laughed at myself, then tried again. Still need a push from the armrest. But I didn't give up. Each morning, before breakfast, I'd try 3 times. Some days were better than others. On bad days, I supported myself lightly with a cushion or used a lower seat. On good days, I could stand almost straight. Within 2 weeks, I noticed something. My legs felt steadier. I didn't need to hold onto walls as often. My walking speed improved. After 3 weeks, I stood up from my chair, hands free, for the first time in years. It was a small moment, but it felt like victory. Why this works? The science behind standing tall. The reason this tiny habit is so powerful is that it works every major muscle group you rely on for balance and independence. Your thighs, quadriceps, hips, glutes, and core all engage when you rise from sitting. These are the same muscles that help you walk without shuffling, stay upright when stepping off a curb, avoid falling when you trip, carry groceries without wobbling. Doctors now use a version of this test, the sit-to-stand test, to assess fall risk and future frailty in older adults. Those who can't perform it are significantly more likely to suffer from falls, hospitalizations, and even loss of autonomy. So when I started practicing standing without my hands, I wasn't just doing a leg exercise. I was taking back control over my future. A routine that takes less than 2 minutes. If you're reading this and thinking, I don't know if I can do that, let me tell you, you can start small. Here's how I did it. Choose a sturdy chair, without armrests, if possible. Sit upright, feet flat on the ground, knees at a 90-degree angle. Cross your arms over your chest, or let them hang naturally. Lean forward slightly and push through your legs to stand. If you can't make it, use your hands lightly, but try again. Do 3 to 5 reps each morning. No pressure, no pain. Some days I only did 1. But I always did something. And slowly, the body responded. Real-life proof. My friend Margaret's story. I wasn't the only one. My neighbor Margaret, who's 79 and has arthritis in both knees, saw me doing these little stand-ups one morning and asked what I was up to. I explained my routine, and she laughed, saying, I can't even stand up without moaning like a haunted house door. But she was curious. So I showed her. We practiced together, using the edge of her kitchen counter for support. Within a month, she was able to get out of bed without groaning and started walking twice a day with her little terrier, Buddy. It's not just about strength, she told me one afternoon. It's about dignity. I don't feel old when I can stand up on my own. Final thoughts. From chair-bound to choosing freedom. If you've made it this far, I want you to know, it's never too late to start your journey from weakness to independence. Don't wait for a fall to remind you that balance matters. Don't settle for feeling helpless when small, consistent actions can help you stay strong. Start with 1 chair, 1 stand, 1 morning. That's all it takes to begin. Because when you choose to stand without your hands, you're choosing to stand up for your freedom, dignity, and future. And trust me, at 80, it feels pretty good. 2. Turning point. A simple test and awakening. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 1 below to let me know that you are still here with me. It was a quiet Sunday morning, the kind where the world feels a little slower, a little softer. I had just brewed my usual cup of coffee, black, 2 sugars, and was flipping through the newspaper at the kitchen table. The sun streamed through the window, casting golden light on the linoleum floor. Everything felt just like it always did. And yet, something had changed. When I got up to pour a second cup, I noticed it took more effort than it should have. My hands instinctively gripped the edge of the table to push myself up. My knees groaned, my back stiffened, and I felt a small wave of frustration rise. I paused, stared at my cup for a moment, and thought, when did this become my new normal? I didn't used to need to push. I used to just stand. Later that day, my granddaughter came over with her usual energy and cheer. She had been watching a health show on YouTube and started telling me about a 10-second balance test that could predict your health and longevity. I chuckled at the idea, but she insisted, "Come on, Grandpa, try it with me, it's easy." The test was simple. Stand on one leg for 10 seconds without holding on to anything. Sounded harmless enough. I tried. The result was humbling. I barely made it past 5 seconds. My body wobbled. I flailed my arms a bit to steady myself. I laughed it off, but deep down, something stirred. Maybe it's just because I haven't eaten, I joked. But after she left, I found myself standing in front of the mirror in my bedroom, trying again. This time, I didn't even make it to 5. That's when I felt it. Not just the unsteadiness, but a quiet, uncomfortable truth sinking in. I had always thought balance just faded with age, like hair turning gray or eyes needing glasses. I never questioned it. But now I started wondering, what if this test wasn't just about balance? What if it was about control? The kind of control I didn't even realize I was slowly losing. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed replaying that moment again and again. Not because I was embarrassed, but because I was awakened. The more I thought about it, the more I realized that everything I had brushed off as just aging might be something else. Maybe it wasn't inevitable. Maybe there was still something I could do. So I did what any curious old man with a smartphone would do. I started researching. I learned that our balance isn't just about our legs or our inner ear. It's deeply tied to core strength, lower body muscle, neurological coordination, and even how often we challenge our bodies with movement. The reason I couldn't stand on one leg for 10 seconds wasn't just age. It was because I hadn't practiced standing. I had adapted to my weakness without realizing it. I had let it slip in quietly, unchallenged. More than that, I discovered something else. This 10-second test isn't just a party trick. Multiple studies showed that those who struggle with balance tasks in their 60s and 70s are far more likely to suffer from serious falls, mobility loss, and hospitalization later on. Doctors now use this as part of routine physicals to identify early frailty. That simple test with my granddaughter? It was a wake-up call, a glimpse into my future if I didn't change something. But here's the part that gave me hope. The same research said that balance and strength can be regained. Not by doing anything extreme. Not by joining a boot camp or lifting heavy weights. But by slowly and gently reintroducing movement, every day, with intention. So I started small. Each morning, after brushing my teeth, I'd try the test again. I'd stand near the counter, one hand hovering close in case I needed it. I'd lift my right leg and count 1, 2, 3. At first, I still wobbled. But I noticed something strange. I felt more awake, more aware of my body. It was like I had reconnected with a part of myself I hadn't spoken to in years. I added a few small routines. Standing up from a chair without using my hands, walking in a straight line with one foot in front of the other, and even doing light heel-to-toe walks across the living room. Each exercise took under 5 minutes. But every time I practiced, it was a quiet declaration. I am not done. After a few weeks, I could hold the balance for 9 seconds. Then 10. One day, I made it to 12 and felt like I'd won the lottery. It wasn't just about the seconds. It was about the message it sent to my heart. I still had the power to improve. I remember calling my old friend Frank, a fellow Navy veteran, and telling him about the test. "Balance," he said. "I've been avoiding stairs like the plague. You think something like that would help?" So we met at the park the next morning. 2 old men, standing near a bench, lifting one leg at a time, counting out loud and laughing like kids. Frank couldn't believe how shaky he was at first. But he kept at it. "It's like brushing your teeth," he said a few days later. "You just do it because you know it matters." And it did matter. Within a month, both of us were walking with more confidence. I noticed fewer missteps when walking down the hallway at night. I could climb stairs without leaning heavily on the rail. Even the act of tying my shoes became easier. These little wins stacked up, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years: momentum. Looking back, that moment with my granddaughter changed everything. Not because the test was magical, but because it exposed something I had been too willing to accept: the slow fading of independence. Sometimes, all it takes is a mirror and a moment of honesty to shift your path. Other times, it takes the innocence of a young voice asking you to try something new. If you're reading this and thinking, "Well, I don't know if I could even balance on one leg," I understand. I was there too. But that's not the point. The point isn't perfection. It's presence. It's showing up for your own body, giving it a little challenge, and saying, let's try again tomorrow. And if you're worried it's too late, I promise you, it's not. You are not a tree. You are not fixed in place. You can grow, change, and regain strength at any age. I've seen it in myself, in Frank, and now in dozens of people who've heard our story and decided to give that simple 10-second test a try. It's amazing what happens when we stop measuring our worth by what we can't do, and start celebrating what we can. So if you're sitting in your chair right now, wondering where to begin, start there. Stand up. Take a breath. Maybe lift one foot for a second or two. Don't rush. Don't judge. Just begin. That little test? It's not about balance. It's about believing that you still have more to live, more to do, and more strength inside you than you think. And the moment you realize that, that's your awakening. 3. The real secret. Simple daily morning habits. They say how you start your morning shapes your whole day. And I've found that to be more true now, at 80, than at any other point in my life. Not long ago, my mornings looked very different. I'd wake up feeling stiff and slow. My joints creaked like an old cabin door, and I'd shuffle to the bathroom holding onto the walls like a sailor in rough seas. I'd pour my coffee and sit in my chair, telling myself I needed to rest a little more before getting moving. Sometimes I'd stay there longer than I meant to, reading the paper, staring out the window, watching the birds, wondering why I felt so tired even though I just got out of bed. It felt normal. After all, I'm not 40 anymore. But then one day I asked myself, what if the tiredness isn't because I'm old, but because I'm not moving enough? That thought sat with me all day. For so long, I assumed that energy was something that just disappears with age, like your hairline or your memory. But what if it's not about age? What if it's about momentum? I started paying attention to my body, closely. And I realized something surprising. The more I stayed still in the morning, the worse my body felt for the rest of the day. But on the rare mornings when I had to be up and out early, like for a doctor's appointment or a family breakfast, I felt better, even with less sleep. So I decided to try an experiment. I would create a gentle, doable, 5-minute morning routine. Nothing dramatic. No yoga mats or dumbbells. Just small movements, done consistently, to see if I could turn that groggy, achy start into something brighter. The results? Life-changing. I call it my wake up strong routine. It's simple. It's quiet. And it gave me back control over my mornings. And, in many ways, my life. Here's what I do every single day before breakfast. First, before I even get out of bed, I do ankle circles. I lie on my back, stretch my legs, and rotate each ankle 10 times in each direction. This helps wake up the blood flow in my legs and reduce that heavy, sluggish feeling. Then, once I sit up on the edge of the bed, I spend about 30 seconds doing toe curls and spreads. I lift and stretch my toes, press them into the floor, and feel the connection between my feet and the ground. It's like telling my body, hey, we're starting the day. Let's go. Next comes my favorite, the sit to stand. I stand up from the edge of my bed, or sometimes a chair, without using my hands. I do this 3 times. On good days, I do 5. It activates my legs, my balance, and my confidence. After that, I walk around my room slowly, with purpose. I take 10 mindful steps, focusing on posture, breathing, and smooth movement. No phone, no distractions. Just me and my feet. And finally, I do something that isn't physical, but it's just as important. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 2 below to let me know that you are still here with me. I say one sentence of intention for the day. Something like, today, I will move with strength. Today, I will smile more. Today, I will enjoy the small things. That little sentence centers me. It reminds me that no matter my age, I can still choose how I live my day. Now here's what surprised me the most. I didn't expect much from this routine. I thought maybe I'd feel a little less stiff. But within a week, I noticed I was standing taller. I had more energy in the afternoons. My mood improved. I even laughed more. My daughter came over one day and said, "Dad, Did you do something different with your hair? I hadn't. But something was different. My face looked more alive. It's not magic. It's momentum. You see, your body is like an old car. It still runs, but it needs to be warmed up. If you start the day cold and stiff, everything feels harder. But if you give yourself just 5 minutes of movement, you're telling your brain and body, we're still in the game. And let me be clear, you don't have to do everything I do. Maybe for you, it's just standing up and sitting down once. Maybe it's marching in place while the coffee brews. Maybe it's reaching up to the sky and then touching your knees. The point isn't perfection, it's consistency. I have a friend named Edith. She's 84, uses a cane, and has arthritis in her hips. I told her about my morning routine and she laughed. You want me to do toe curls? I can barely put on my slippers. But she was curious. So I gave her a simpler version, just ankle circles and a few seated marches. A week later, she called me and said, I'm not saying I ran a marathon, but I haven't had to sit down halfway to the mailbox this week. She was proud. And that's what matters. These tiny habits add up, not just physically, but emotionally. They give you back a sense of agency, the feeling that you are not at the mercy of your age. You are still steering the ship. And I want to be real with you. Some mornings, I don't feel like doing it. Some mornings I ache. Some mornings I argue with myself. But I still do it. Because I know the alternative is worse. I know that skipping one day turns into 3, and 3 turns into a month, and suddenly I'm back to needing the wall to stand up. So I show up for 5 minutes. That's all. That's the real secret. It's not about discipline. It's about self-respect. You are still here. You are still breathing. That alone is a reason to move, to stretch, to greet the day with even the gentlest effort. Some people wait for motivation. But what I've learned is this: motion creates motivation. Once your feet are moving, your heart and mind follow. If you take just one thing from my story, let it be this: how you greet your morning will quietly shape the rest of your life. Don't underestimate it. Your body is listening. So tomorrow morning, before you reach for the remote, before you scroll through the news, just take 1 minute. Rotate your ankles. Stand once without your hands. Take 5 deep breaths. Whisper a sentence to yourself that makes you feel strong. That's all it takes to begin. Be independent isn't just about walking unassisted or lifting heavy things. It's about reclaiming your rhythm, your confidence, and your choice to live each day on your terms. And for me, that starts before the coffee's even brewed. 4. Nutrition that supports strength. When we think of strength, we often think of movement, exercise, balance, walking. But in truth, strength starts even deeper than our muscles. It begins in the kitchen. For most of my life, I never gave much thought to what I ate. I just ate what I liked. Bacon and eggs in the morning, sandwiches at lunch, a hearty meatloaf or spaghetti at night. I figured that as long as I didn't overeat, I was doing just fine. But I started noticing something subtle in my 70s. My legs felt thinner, weaker. I bruised more easily. My energy dipped faster. And even though I was moving more, doing my morning routine, walking around the block, I wasn't feeling as strong as I hoped. That's when I began to ask myself, could what I'm eating, or not eating, be the missing piece? We often assume that nutrition is about weight or blood pressure. But for older adults like you and me, nutrition is the foundation of physical resilience. And here's something I learned that changed how I look at every plate of food now. You can't build or maintain strength without giving your body the materials it needs. It's like trying to repair a house with no tools or lumber. You can hammer all day, but nothing's going to hold together. The truth is, after 60, our bodies need more protein, more variety, and better quality nutrition than ever before, but we often eat less. Our appetites shrink, we snack more than we cook, and many of us skip meals without realizing it. I did. But here's what surprised me. Muscle loss isn't just about not moving enough. It's about not eating enough of the right stuff. And one of the biggest culprits is low protein intake. So I made a decision. I would rebuild my plate the way I wanted to rebuild my strength. Let me walk you through a few of the simple changes I made. Not dramatic, not expensive, but deeply effective. It started with breakfast. I used to skip it some days, or just have toast with jam. Now, I treat breakfast like a chance to fuel my body after sleep. One of my go-tos is a soft egg porridge, something comforting, easy to digest, but full of protein. I cook half a cup of rice with water until it's soft and soupy, then stir in a fresh egg and top it with green onions and a touch of sesame oil. It's gentle, warm, and fills me up without feeling heavy. On other days, I'll have a slice of whole grain toast topped with mashed avocado and a soft-boiled egg. That gives me healthy fat, fiber, and protein, a trio that keeps my muscles and joints happy. And I never forget hydration. I used to just sip coffee until lunch, but now I drink a full glass of water first thing in the morning. You'd be surprised how much strength you lose when you're even slightly dehydrated. Lunchtime became my opportunity to sneak in colorful vegetables and lean protein. I started making simple salads, just a handful of greens, chopped boiled eggs or grilled salmon, a little olive oil, and lemon juice. Sometimes I add beans or walnuts for texture and extra nutrients. Dinner is usually the lightest meal now. I've fallen in love with steamed egg custards, 1 egg whisked with chopped spinach, carrots, or mushrooms, and steamed gently for 10 minutes. It's soothing and perfect for digestion, especially on colder nights. You might be thinking, that all sounds nice, but I don't cook much anymore. I hear you. But I'll tell you this, simple doesn't mean complicated. A hard-boiled egg, a scoop of cottage cheese, a handful of almonds, a can of tuna, or a bowl of lentil soup, these are strength-building foods that take almost no effort. Even adding a spoonful of peanut butter to a slice of whole grain toast can help you meet your protein needs. The key is consistency, not perfection. And it's not just about protein. I learned that we also need nutrients like vitamin D, calcium, omega-3s, magnesium, and antioxidants, all of which help preserve muscle, reduce inflammation, and support bone health. That's why I started adding a few things I never used to buy. Greek yogurt, for protein and probiotics. Blueberries, tiny but powerful for reducing muscle damage. Salmon, rich in omega-3s and vitamin D. Leafy greens, for magnesium and calcium. And even green tea, which has antioxidant compounds that support overall aging. I also pay attention to what I avoid. I've cut back on added sugar and processed foods. I still enjoy my favorites from time to time, ice cream on Sundays, a slice of pie on holidays, but they're no longer the foundation of my day. Because when you start to feel stronger, more stable, more alive, you want to protect that feeling. You start realizing that food isn't just fuel, it's a form of self-respect. And don't just take my word for it. My neighbor Walter, he's 86 now, had been falling asleep in his chair every afternoon, barely able to make it through the day. His daughter brought him to one of my community health talks where I shared my food routine. He started making protein smoothies with Greek yogurt, bananas, and a scoop of peanut butter in the morning. After 2 weeks, he called me. I feel like I'm waking up from something, he said. I'm even doing yard work again. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 3 below to let me know that you are still here with me. That's the power of food. Not fancy supplements. Not expensive powders. Just real, wholesome choices, eat with purpose. Of course, not every day is perfect. Some days I just have soup and crackers. But I no longer ignore the impact of what I eat. I know now that every bite is either helping me stay strong or nudging me further into weakness. And the beautiful part? It's never too late to start. Our muscles may be older, but they're still listening, still responding, still healing. With the right nourishment, your body can do things you thought were lost forever. So if you've been feeling tired, stiff, or like you're shrinking into your skin, take a look at your plate. Ask yourself, is this food building me up or breaking me down? You don't need a perfect diet. You don't need to give up everything you love. But you do need to give your body what it's quietly asking for, support. Start with one change. Add 1 egg to your breakfast. Swap white bread for whole grain. Choose tuna over cold cuts. Drink 1 more glass of water. Make 1 small upgrade. Because strength doesn't come in a rush, It comes in layers. One choice at a time. And before long, your body will notice. Your balance will improve. Your steps will feel lighter. You'll get up from that chair without thinking. And one day, you'll look in the mirror and realize, you didn't just eat better, you became better. And that is the real secret. 5. Mental and emotional balance. When we talk about strength, we often think of muscles, balance, and movement. But there's another kind of strength, one you don't see in the mirror but feel in your chest. The kind that holds you steady during hard days, quiet nights, and moments when you don't quite feel like yourself. I'm talking about mental and emotional balance. The quiet power that lets us face the day with calm, clarity, and courage, no matter what's going on around us. You know, no one prepared us for the emotional weight that can come with growing older. People talk about retirement like it's this endless vacation, but they don't talk about the days that feel empty. They don't mention how strange it feels when your phone doesn't ring as much, or when your calendar isn't as full as it used to be. They don't tell you how it stings a little when your body can't do what it once did, or how grief lingers even after you've tried to move on. I remember a few winters ago, after I turned 78, I fell into what I can only describe as a fog. I wasn't sad exactly, but I wasn't joyful either. I'd wake up, drink my coffee, sit by the window, and just watch the hours pass. My routine was intact. I did my morning movements. I ate pretty well. But emotionally, something felt off. I wasn't connecting. Not with myself, not with others, not even with the little joys of life. At first, I brushed it off as just a phase. But then I started to wonder, what if this isn't just mood? What if I'm off balance? Inside? We often assume that emotional ups and downs are part of aging. And yes, some of it is natural. But that doesn't mean we have to accept feeling disconnected or numb. Mental balance, just like physical balance, can be trained, restored, and protected. The key is knowing how. So I started paying attention to what lifted my spirits, and what weighed them down. And you know what I found? Small, consistent habits matter more than big dramatic changes. I started with something simple, a gratitude check-in every morning. Nothing fancy, just 3 things I was thankful for. Some days it was big, my health, my family. Other days it was small, the warmth of my blanket, the way the sun touched my curtains, the sound of birds on the roof. Writing those 3 things down took less than a minute, but slowly, it shifted the way I saw my day. It reminded me that life was still happening, and I was still part of it. Then I added mindful breathing. I'm not talking about meditation on a mountain or chanting for hours. I mean just sitting in my chair, closing my eyes, and taking 5 slow breaths. Inhale, hold, exhale. That's it. At first, I thought it was silly. But after a few days, I noticed I was less tense, less reactive. I didn't snap when things didn't go my way. I wasn't as restless at night. And then came the biggest shift. I started reaching out more. I called people. Not just family, but old friends I hadn't spoken to in years. I wrote handwritten letters. Yes, real ones. I even started attending a small book club at the senior center, even though I hadn't read a novel in over a decade. And you know what happened? I laughed again. I listened again. I remembered who I was outside of my aches and routines. I found parts of myself that had been waiting quietly in the corner. That's when it hit me. Emotional balance isn't about avoiding hard feelings. It's about staying connected through them. Connected to purpose, to people, and to moments that matter. And like any kind of strength, it grows with practice. I'll tell you about a woman named Dolores, 83 years old, a widow, living 2 doors down from me. We weren't close at first, but one morning I noticed her sitting alone on the porch, tears in her eyes. Her dog had passed away. He was her last real companion, she said. I sat with her. We didn't talk much. Just watched the wind in the trees. A few days later, I brought her a notebook and said, "This helped me, maybe it'll help you." It was a simple journal for gratitude. At first, she didn't use it. But a week later, she told me she started writing 1 sentence each night. Today, I made it through. That was her beginning. That was her strength. Now she's the first person to greet me when I go out for my morning walk. She even started volunteering at the animal shelter once a week. Her grief didn't disappear, but her life got wider around it. That's what emotional balance looks like. It's not perfect peace. It's not pretending everything is okay. It's learning how to stand, not just on your feet, but in your spirit, even when life shakes you a little. So if you've been feeling a little lost, a little foggy, or like you're just going through the motions, I want to remind you, you are not alone, and this is not the end of your story. Try these little things. Start each day with one sentence of gratitude. Take 5 deep breaths before you check the news or make your coffee. Call someone, even if it's just to say, hello. Step outside and feel the sunlight, even for a minute. Do something creative. Color, write, bake, sing, hum. Or simply sit in silence and ask yourself, what do I need today? You don't have to fix everything. You just have to tend to your heart like you would tend to a garden. Patiently, gently, and daily. Because your emotional world matters. Your mental well-being matters. And you matter more than you know. You've lived through decades of change, challenge, and resilience. You've raised children, cared for others, built lives, said goodbye, started over. There is a strength in you that's been earned, not given. Let that strength show, not just in your legs or arms, but in your voice, your choices, and your presence. You are still here. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment below to let me know that you are still here with me. You still have something to say, something to give, something to feel. And when you honor your emotional balance, you remind yourself and everyone around you. This life, right now, still matters. And so do you. 6. Real stories from friends your age. One of the most powerful things I've learned over the years is that sometimes the best inspiration doesn't come from experts or books. It comes from people just like us. People who have walked this path before, faced the same challenges, and found ways to keep living fully, even as the years add up. I want to share some stories from friends my age. Stories that remind me every day that strength, resilience, and joy don't have an expiration date. Let me start with Helen. Helen is 79 and lives just a few blocks away. A retired schoolteacher with a laugh that fills the room. She was the first person in our neighborhood to take walking seriously. But Helen didn't start strong. About 5 years ago, she was struggling to walk more than a block without feeling winded or unstable. She told me once, I used to think, well, this is just how it is when you get old. I figured I'd have to slow down. But Helen made a choice. She started with short walks, just around her driveway. Then she joined a local seniors walking group, a motley crew of folks pushing walkers, carrying canes, but all sharing one goal, to keep moving. Now Helen walks 3 miles every morning. She's even started training for a local charity 5K, not to win, but to prove to herself that she still can. What's more inspiring is that she encourages others in our community, helping them find their ways to keep active. Then there's George, who's 84. George is a retired mechanic, someone who's worked hard all his life and isn't afraid of a little grit. But after a fall a few years back, he found himself fearful of moving too much, worried he'd hurt himself again. That fear kept him sedentary for months, and he felt his independence slipping away. One day, a physical therapist introduced him to a gentle routine, simple leg lifts, ankle circles, standing up without hands. George was skeptical. I thought, how can these little moves help me? He said. But with patience and practice, something changed. His balance improved. His confidence returned. He even started volunteering at a community garden, tending tomatoes, and chatting with neighbors. George told me recently, I realized that sometimes the hardest step is the one away from fear. And then there's Martha, 77, a woman who has faced more than her share of hardship. After losing her husband and battling health issues, Martha found herself isolated and discouraged. But she found joy again through volunteering at the local library and leading a weekly knitting circle. Martha told me, what kept me going was feeling needed, feeling connected. Her emotional and mental strength grew alongside her physical health. She walks daily with a friend and swears that laughing through their stories is the best medicine. These stories aren't about superheroes or miracles. They're about real people making real choices, sometimes small, sometimes brave, to take back their lives. What they share is simple. You're never too old to start. You're never too old to change. And you're never alone. Sometimes, hearing that someone just down the street or across town is doing it too can be the spark you need. It's the proof that if they can, you can. I encourage you to look around your circle. Maybe it's a neighbor, a friend from church, a cousin, or even someone you chat with on the phone. Listen to their stories. Share your own. Together, these stories build a community of strength. Because at the end of the day, our greatest power isn't just in our muscles or minds, it's in our connections. So, what about you? What's your story? What small step have you taken, or want to take, to stand taller, move stronger, or feel more alive? I invite you to share it below. Your story could be the encouragement someone else needs. Remember, every journey starts with a single step, and every step, no matter how small, is worth celebrating. As we come to the end of this journey together, I want you to take a moment and feel what you've heard today. These stories, these small daily habits, the simple truths about strength, they're not just words. They're invitations. Invitations to stand a little taller, move a little freer, and live a little fuller, no matter your age. Remember, strength isn't about perfection. It's about showing up for yourself, day after day, with kindness and patience. It's about celebrating the small victories, whether that's standing up without your hands, taking one more step, or simply choosing to nourish your body and mind. You've lived a life rich with experience, challenges, and triumphs. The years have shaped you, but they don't define you. What defines you is your spirit, your willingness to keep going, to keep growing, and to keep believing in the possibilities ahead. So here's my encouragement. Don't wait for tomorrow to start. Tomorrow becomes next week, next month, and before you know it, it's a whole year gone. Start today, right now, with one small action that feels right for you. And if this video has touched you, please share your thoughts below. Tell me one thing you've learned or plan to try. Your story might be the spark that lights someone else's path. If you found value here, I'd be honored if you'd like, share, and subscribe so we can continue this journey together, because none of us have to face aging alone. Thank you for being here, for being open, and for choosing to stand strong. Your best days are still ahead.